Check, 1, 2.
Yeah, Suellio. Almeida.
Suellio Almeida. Nice to meet you in person. Well, virtually in person.
Your voice is a little bit different. Maybe it's not the microphone that you're using.
Let's see. Is it going through the right audio?
It's very like it's robotic, something like.
Let's see.
It's sounding very like static, robotic, or something.
Is that better?
Oh yeah, that's much better.
I switched to the actual microphone.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, this is the EricSwahnRacing.com podcast. I believe it's going to be in 100 and teens. And we got Suellio Almeida today. And thank you for coming on. You're a big guy in social media network I've found on Instagram. And you have a ton of driving tips and coaching from sim racing. And it looks like you've made the switch to real car driving as well.
Yeah, thanks for inviting, man. It's been a weird trip since 2020 when I was doing like my master's degree in piano, and iRacing was still my hobby and everything. And I was competing. I was really like looking more for competing than coaching, but because I wanted to pay for my tuition for my master's degree in piano, I started coaching. So it was never the main job, the main goal. But I realized, oh, I can do this very well. And people started like from mouth to mouth, like more people like wanted to do coaching with me. And then now here I am with like 1.6 thousand coaching sessions done so far. So I never wanted, but it happened to me to become a coaching, sim racing coach.
Sounds like it happened organically without too much, I wouldn't say too much effort. There's always effort you put into it, but some things happen easier than others.
Yeah, it's actually, I would say it was the path of least effort. It happened naturally, really. It's not like I was forcing my way into coaching. It kind of happened naturally. So it's actually safe to say that a lot less effort was needed for me to succeed that in comparison to, for example, the effort needed to actually win competitions in high level.
Sure. And tell everybody what kind of sim racing setup you have at home.
Right now, I have a Playseat Sensation Pro cockpit with a Playseat seat and Logitech G Pro direct drive wheelbase and wheel and Logitech G Pro pedals and 331 or 32 inches monitors, and that's it. That's what I have.
So you got the surrounding monitors, so you can get a little bit of the side angle too.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, my field of view right now, it's calculated at 180 degrees, which means there's 60 degrees between each monitor. And because I have my virtual mirror and iRacing set to 140, I have pretty much 320 degrees of field of view.
Yeah.
And this is amazing because I actually don't need a spotter. And when I'm racing side by side, I can see the back side of the opponent's car on my virtual mirror and the front at the same time on my side screen. So there's no moment where I lose sight of the car. I can always see where they are.
Yeah.
So this is the best situation possible. Even in VR, you don't have that pretty much.
That's great.
In VR, you would have like to move around and stuff.
Yeah, it's great to have that extra vision. It's so valuable. I'm just using one screen in my living room on my regular TV. So it's not ideal. I have a sim racing setup too. I have just one of the basic seats that I could get. It was like the cheapest seat I could find on Amazon, and it ended up breaking a couple months later. So my dad and I built this wooden box around the steering wheel, the base, because it's so heavy. It was just folding straight down. It was just coming down on my lap. So built that wooden box to help keep it up. But I have a Fanatic, I think it's a DD1 wheel with the V3 inverted pedals. So
nice.
It's got a ton of force feedback. You know, you gotta hold on with both hands. You can't just be lollygagging, just trying to do one hand. Never gonna work.
Yeah, I've been like I had a VRS Direct Force Pro, which has 20 newton meters, but I was never using that. I mean, it's totally overkill to have it maxed out. So what I had was somewhere between 50 and 60%, which is somewhere between 10 and 13 newton meters.
Okay.
and the direct drive that I have right now is 11 Newton meters. So I do use it maxed out, but it's already tiring. I did the endurance at Atlanta last weekend and I was dead after driving that for what, 5 hours. So yeah, pretty much 10 to 11 Newton meters, perfect, I would say.
Yeah, and I use a fitness watch all the time to record, my activities or running or biking, whatever. And I'm like, I should put my watch on when I do this racing game because it's a workout.
And do you see what does it say?
Oh, I think my heart spikes. Your heart rate goes up more from the adrenaline of not hitting somebody rather than the force you need to actually control the wheel. Although it is, it does take some strength to do that. It's more mental, right? It's more like, oh no, I almost hit him, or oh, I'm trying to make a pass, or maybe he broke earlier than you thought he was going to, and now you're kind of running out of space. You got to go wide sometimes to avoid those situations. So it's all about just trying to keep it on 2 wheels and increase your safety rating, increase your consistency, your car control. All those things are really important.
Yeah, this is actually very interesting because you see a lot of people sweating and being like exhausted after, but honestly, 90% of that is from stress, adrenaline, and focus rather than a physical workout. Like, because I'm working that in real life right now. My coach in real life noticed that I was very tense while driving. He said, dude, just relax, breathe, try to be like everything that I say that my students have to do in real life, because it was such a new experience for me. I was actually not doing, I was very tense, my shoulders and everything. It's tension that was making me have a unnecessary physical workout because I was nervous. So throughout the season, my first season, I was like, okay, relax, relax, relax. And she was saying in the radio, relax, relax, breathe. And I realized that you can be like, you can do everything and more while spending 10% of the energy, because it's just about like controlling that physical state, almost like getting to this meditation state while driving super fast and super precise. So that's my goal right now, is to maximize that and to be extremely relaxed. You see like the best drivers around, they're on Twitch, they're chatting with the guys on the channel, they're laughing and everything, and they're like doing world records while not like, they're not sweating, they're just, it's a state that is so difficult to reach actually, to be able to be relaxed while doing your absolute best in terms of precision and performance.
I think I remember Lewis Hamilton. That reminds me. He was on, I think, Top Gear, and he was singing while he was doing his fastest lap. Just full out, 100%, just singing a song, just la di da, And it's like, how do you mentally prepare to be calm when you're going 150 miles an hour?
Honestly, the speed is not the problem. Actually, this is a funny thing. Like in real life, the speed itself is not the problem. It's as soon as you turn into the corner and you get into some sort of under or oversteer, that's where you get scared. So we start braking at well, in my car, 180, 185 kilometers per hour. And then, but when you're at 100 mid corner, getting back on power and losing the rear a little bit, that's where it scares you. So it's not the speed itself, it's the state of being like loose and having the 4 tires sliding around, where the exit, for example, the exits are pretty much consequences of what you do on entry. And one of the races I did this year had an exit with a wall.
Ooh.
And in one of the laps I got back on power a little bit too early, and I thought I was gonna overshear a little bit, but it started undershearing and I saw the wall coming close, and that was fast because it was a high-speed corner. And then on the last second, I was able to lift a little bit to get the nose to point, and I pretty much scratched the wall. And that felt scary. That was like, oh my God. And well, definitely you could feel some unnecessary tension there, and like pretty much like stiffening up the entire body because it was scary. So, but you really want to fight against that, even in the most scary situations where the car is completely like sideways. You cannot panic. I actually talked to a legendary real life driver on the racetrack some weeks ago, and I was talking, like I was chit chatting about what he was doing on track, and I mentioned something But there, it's very easy to panic, blah, blah. And I didn't even mention, like, I didn't even focus too much when I said panic. But as soon as I said it, he was like, no, but I never panic. And I was like, okay, that's actually interesting. So I was mentioning situations where normal people would panic, but real racing drivers, regardless of the state of the car, if you're spinning or something, you should not panic. You should be in full control and remain calm even when things are not going right. This is so difficult, so difficult.
But it's key to going fast and doing it safely and consistently. And I think, it comes with time behind the seat. For us, we say seat time is the most important for motorcycle racing. And it's extremely important for any vehicle you're racing, because if you know the ins and outs of that vehicle and it gets a little sideways, chances are you know how to save it. You know how to get out of that situation, and it's not a big panic moment. I think I remember watching a TED Talk years ago, and they were talking about how racing drivers are so incredible and all this stuff, and how they'll lose the car halfway into the corner. I think they're at Laguna Seca for this one, and he just, turns the wheel and corrects the slide, and it's no big deal. He didn't panic. He didn't take his foot off the gas. He just ever so slightly turned the wheel, in the way it was spinning, and helped correct the slide and made it all okay. And it's like, yeah, it's just no big deal once you know how to do it.
Yeah, I think it's about repetition, honestly. Like, you see these best drivers, they probably already spun or lost the car hundreds of times over the course of their lives. And so after you do it once, you panic. Second time, you panic less. Third time, okay, now you know how to correct it. And then after 100 times, you expect the places where you will oversteer. And sometimes it's even faster to oversteer in that little moment there to set up a car. So it becomes part of the programming. It becomes part of the what's the word, like the process. So
yeah, an expert is someone who's made all the mistakes you can make in a single field, and so
exactly.
they've already experienced those things, so now you can learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you have coached many different people as far as like their skill levels. It's probably a very wide skill gap from the slowest person to the fastest person you've coached. So there's a lot of different things that people have issues with. But what is something that you see that's a common mistake that people are making when they're trying to go faster? Such an open question.
No, it's a very good question. It depends on the level. Mostly, it also depends on the background. So I was coaching in real life this month, and some of the drivers were coming from the karting background, and they had specific bad habits, not bad habits, but habits that work on karts, but do not work on real cars, not real cars, big cars.
Yeah.
And I know exactly that they want to lift the brakes very quickly and throw the car into the corner, but it's not going to work. The car is going to understeer. So I have to work on trail braking in a very different way. And other people like that trail brake a lot, for example, in if they begin with cars with lots of ABS on a simulator, then they kind of develop this technique of just carrying too much trail braking. So I have to do the opposite job. I have to do like, okay, now actually let's try to bring this down. Let's start feeling a little bit how the car behaves on coasting, and you can trail brake at 30% or 20% or 10%. So you can have actually opposite problems compared to other drivers depending on your background. So I think the most common mistake is vision. So a lot of drivers don't really know where to look at, and then they start driving reactively. As soon as they start, they choose a braking point, boom, now they're just reacting. Oh, what's happening? What should I do next? And when they don't plan what is going to happen, they become victims, passengers, like just you just don't know what to do. So looking forward a little bit generally is the first thing that is actually very overlooked and underrated. People don't really care about it. People really don't like when I say, hey, like your problem is vision. They're like, no, it's not vision. It's something else. Like, teach me the secrets.
They're like,
no.
I can see just fine. Well, you're not looking in the right places.
Exactly.
Your attention is not, I'm learning to become a coach myself for a couple of organizations for motorcycle racing. And vision is huge in motorcycle racing. But on a bike, you can see them turn their head like an owl. And it's crazy sometimes. The person in front of me, like, I don't think I could turn my head that much. And It's really important though, because if you're, I noticed earlier this year at Virginia International Raceway, VIR, I was at this race school, and they had painted or put tape lines on X's for your turn-in points and some of the apexes and your exit points to try to give people an idea of where they should be on the track. And I found myself staring at the turn-in point X way too long and missing my apex because I was too focused on my turn-in. I was like, yes, it's there, but you shouldn't stare at it the whole time until you're on top of it. You need to see, okay, that's 1 point. Now where's the next one? Before you even get to that first one, you know, your tires are going to roll over it. Now where's the next one? And now where's the next one after that? And it becomes kind of difficult sometimes if it's a blind corner where you can't see the apex from the turn-in point. You're now going to have to find like a pre-apex a point. So it's like, it's not just 3 points, turn in, apex, exit. There's many other points throughout the corner that you should be looking at too, I think.
Yeah, and actually, what I do is a reverse process. My ideal process is thinking about first how the corner looks, where is the minimum speed point, where I'm gonna accelerate. From there, I start backing my point. So I focus first on the apex, then I start focusing more on a little bit before the apex, and then before, and then before, and then before, and then finally I get to the turning point. So people think that you should first find a turning point and then see what happens, but that's not efficient, because then you're already starting with lots of mistakes and not really figuring out where you're gonna have your minimum speed. So doing the opposite is actually what works. Of course, you have to brake early, then carry like less brakes so you can get into some undershear to find that sweet spot mid corner, and then you start going backwards and finally getting your turning point and finally getting your braking point. So I like to do the opposite process.
Yeah. And for people who don't know too much about cars, can you explain oversteer and understeer and what those mean to you?
Understeer is when you ask for X rotation, the front tires are not able to do that and they die first. I like saying like that, they give up, and then pretty much the car refuses to turn and goes into a very fixed rotation that is less than you expected. Oversteer is when the front tires have way too much grip, they point the car, and there is a reaction because the rear tires now, they cannot resist to that much rotation, and they start sliding, so the car rotates, yaws way too much, and then you start getting sideways. So for me, you see, the way I described it is not like focus on the rears, actually. It's focusing the fronts. Even when I'm talking about oversteer, I talk about the fronts. Understeer is when the fronts die first. Oversteer is when the fronts work too much. So, and then of course, consequently, the rears die first. And it's funny that I was coaching a kart driver like that was doing like pretty like high level competitions, and she was not completely aware of the understeer oversteer, because in karts you get that rotation as a whole a lot more. The car is sliding the 4 tires, it's kind of sideways, like a mini rally car.
Yeah.
In that situation, she never developed the perfect idea or feeling of understeer versus oversteer, because she was always rotating the entire platform. So when we went to the real car, not the real car, the big car.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, when we went to the car, she did not know what was understeer and oversteer. Imagine a fast driver, highly skilled, not really knowing what was that. So I had to spend a full coaching session, like really making her induce deliberately understeer. So, okay, I want to turn into this corner, and as soon as you start turning in, drop the brakes and go to power like 30%, just to feel the fronts lifting and then sliding. Now we want the opposite. Now we want you to trail brake a little bit too much and actually try to downshift very early to get that engine braking and throw the car around. Of course, we were doing that in the simulator, not in real life.
Yeah.
And then finally she was like, okay, that was oversteer. So when she clicked, she was able to transfer all the karting experience into the real car, and finally have the oversteer, understeer notions well organized in her mind.
Sure. And it really matters what vehicle you're in. You know, I've been doing a lot of different video games and playing with different cars, and LMP1, if you get into a prototype, like a Porsche, you get on the throttle, you better be pointed in the right direction, because you don't have any more steering. As soon as you get on the throttle, it gets all the way to the rear of the car, and then it unweights the front tires. So your steering is very different than if you're in like a Porsche 911 and you get on the throttle, because you have still a lot of weight on the front. So going from karts to cars or prototypes, it really matters what vehicle you're in to understand the power delivery and how everything works.
It's funny that like I just published a lesson about the 3 levels of acceleration, because like you said, like depending on the car, depending on the setup, if you accelerate gently, it will only lift the front and give lots of grip to the rear, so you get like a really bad understeer on exit. But if you accelerate a little bit more aggressive, you will do 2 things. First, you will still shift some weight to the rears, but because of the amount of power that is a stress to the rear, that extra stress actually decreases the lateral grip and compensates for the weight, so the car keeps rotating. So that's the second level. First level, a little bit too gentle, only understeer. Second level, a little bit more aggressive power, creates some stress, compensates the understeer tendency because of the weight transfer, and then the car keeps rotating. And then the third level is if you stomp the throttle all the way to 100%, and then the stress of the wheel span and the power on the rear will actually be much more than the weight transfer that fed the rear tires with grip, and you actually spin.
Yeah.
So for each car, depending on the setup, depending on the amount of power, you can actually induce opposite things with the throttle. You can induce understeer with the throttle, or you can induce oversteer with the throttle, depending on how aggressively you got back on it. So that these 3 levels are such a nice way, I think, that I finally figured out after years of like trying to explain to my students how the same input can create 2 opposite effects. And I finally got to these 3 levels. And then like it really makes total sense. Even when I'm driving, I'm going down Road Atlanta, I do the blind corner to the right. As soon as I turn right, and then the car starts oversteering, if I keep flat out, I spin. If I lift too much, I understeer. So I have to lift just enough, because you have to go like from 100 to 80 to keep the car rotating enough. If you go down to 60, you understeer, go off. If you keep it 100, you spin. So these 3 levels are making total sense now in my mind when I'm driving.
And it's not an on-off switch. Your throttle, your brakes are not an on-off switch. It's extremely variable. You're talking millimeters. You say you might lift, but it might be like 2 millimeters, right? It's a very small amount.
It's almost nothing. You see my telemetry is like, it goes down a little bit and then up again for like I don't know, 0.3 of a second.
That's awesome to see. And so what tracks have you been racing?
In real life or overall?
Sure, either one.
Pretty much every track in iRacing, and in real life, most tracks in Canada, not all of them. I did Canadian Tire Motorsports Park at Mosport. I did iCar Complex. It's a Sebring-like track, concrete, full of bumps and amazing, super flat. I did Calabogie is amazing. Calabogie Motorsports Park here in Canada. It's such a nice, it's a new track. I think it was built in 2005 or something.
Okay, yeah. And I've heard of Calabogie.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's such a roller coaster, lots of crests, and there's a corner there. There's a nice downhill flat out that you're doing at 160 per hour.
Oof.
It's it's free. It's freaking. It's amazing.
And you're in Montreal?
I live in Montreal right now. Yes. My racing team Apex V2R is based in Ottawa, so I pretty much 2-3 times a month I go there, and then we meet. We go to Shannonville. There's another motorsports track that we do lots of track days and coaching there. Oh my God, there's like 3 Rivers. It's a very famous one. There's a 3 Rivers GP, which is a street track, and it is scary, very scary to drive there because it's walls everywhere. Some of the apexes are like this.
Oh man!
So like if you hit it just a little bit, you can lose the entire side of the car, and that happened already. Like some driver lost half of the Porsche because he hit the wall just a little bit, but it was enough to like he was carrying lots of speed, and like a little mistake that cost probably his entire car.
Yeah, it's an expensive sport, but we love it. We love going fast.
Oh yeah.
And what's something you wanted to talk about today? What's on your mind?
Well, I'm thinking. Well, racing technique is something that I've been focusing a lot my energy. I'm writing my book right now. That is actually the same name of my online course. My online course is Motor Racing Checklist. And it's a funny idea because I was like in the shower, like thinking about life, and I was like always like reflecting, how can I create a framework, something that really works for all drivers? Because I was always trying to figure out how to help that driver specifically. At this point, I had already more than 1,000 coaching sessions, and I was very good at identifying the driver's issue at that moment. Not only the issue, because it's always like 5 to 10 little things, but to find which one is going to be the most efficient, the most um, important, that will give the driver the biggest lap time gain. So I was like, okay, but like, how can I organize the structure of a technique? Like, I cannot teach this if the driver does not know this before. And then I started like organizing kind of a little building, like this foundation, and then like level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I've been coaching first timers and 8,000 iRating world championship drivers. And I figured out these differences. What do I talk about? How advanced this is gonna be? And if they don't understand, what do I need to teach them first, so they now become ready to get that new information, and so on. So after that, I was like in this shower. I was like, what if I created like this checklist? So basically trying to create a list of the techniques that you need to learn before the other ones. Because if I just send a high level like lesson to a student, he's going to be like, I cannot do that. I don't have the sensitivity. I don't have the vision. I don't have the, I mean, he would not know exactly what he doesn't have. He would just tell me, I can't do it. So I started writing down a lot of stuff. And because I was championing the Porsche Esports Spring Challenge Canada in 2021, a real life racing team invited me to race in real life, but it was pretty expensive. So I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm going to release this online course, write down all the list, the things that I was writing down, and see if I can get the funds. So fun fact, I launched this course in March, and I'm still adding more and more lessons because it's getting better and better. And I'm starting to figure out, okay, this lesson is a little bit out of date. I'm going to update it and add like some new details that I learned over the course of like these 7-8 months, and with feedback from the drivers and everything. So it's pretty much 1 or 2 lessons a week that I'm adding. It has become my life, basically, this course. I'm still doing it. And from this, I'm going to write a book. And I want it to be like a good, I'm ambitious. Like, I want it to be a standard book, like Speed Secrets or like Tune to Win, Drive to Win from Carol Smith. So I'm writing it down patiently. I'm going to have a copywriter that is training, a course trainer. The guy literally organizes courses for real life instructors. So okay, he's the coach of the coaches.
Yeah.
And he's going to take all my drafts and everything and help me organize it in the best way possible so we can create such a good book and properly publish it. So I guess I've been writing it for around 6 months, and I still probably need 6 more months or maybe a full year to finish it because I want it to be like good.
Yeah, and you can always come back and make new revisions and new additions and things like that. I've always heard people say perfection is the enemy of the great. Even though you want it to be perfect, you have to have some product before you can improve it, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool to hear, man.
Right now, I'm still not focusing too much on the perfectionism. Although you are right, I think this actually slowed me down a lot when I was writing the course, and I noticed that some of my best lessons in terms of feedback were the ones I was on kind of a lazy day. Okay, I'm not gonna do this edit here. It's a little bit too much. I'm just gonna record it in a more simple way and publish it. And then these lessons that I didn't expect to do that well had such an amazing feedback. Oh man, you just like shaved off like 1 second on my lap time with this lesson. I was like, this lesson? And I was like, yeah, this lesson. And I was like, okay, good. So that means that, yeah, perfectionism mostly slows you down a lot more. But I'm still in the draft side. I'm literally like just trying to dump my thoughts into the the book app that I got, and I'm writing, and then that's why I have like someone who is gonna be the copywriter, because then maybe it's even a little bit too much information. We're gonna have to condensate this and that. So yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's pretty. It kind of slows you down a bit.
Yeah, it's really cool to talk to you, man, because I've told so many people, like, if you get good at sim racing, you can drive a real car and do well in that. And I think it's so true. And you're a prime example of that, a living legend of sorts, to be able to jump from the sim racing to a professional car environment. And seems like you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, and on my first days, I've seen people looking at me on the racetrack and kind of laughing at me. Ah, the sim racer, the gamer. You know, you can't reset if you crash. Blah blah blah. They were really like, a lot of people actually. They were so actively like bullying me because I was a sim racer, especially like older drivers, that they don't even talk to me anymore because I got 3 podiums and a win. And they don't talk to me anymore. They're kind of like a little bit ashamed or something, or I don't know, but I don't talk to them anymore. I mean, either. But I mean, it's I think it's a process. It's a cultural shift that is going on right now. Sim racing is stronger every day, and if you see pretty much all the drivers in the new generation are using sim racing. It's necessary.
It's so valuable. Like, why would you not use that as a tool in your arsenal? It's not the only thing, but it's you don't have to spend a couple $1,000s going to the track and travel, and you maybe mess up your car, your engine, your whatever it is. And this, yes, you can press the reset button, so you can take more risks, but you realize that it's an important thing, and you're not going to try to spin the car when you get behind a real one. You know, you can be a little bit more conservative, maybe, but it really does translate. Now, I've noticed, I've gotten behind the Porsche recently, and there's a GT4 911, and you cannot replicate G-force on a simulator, right? That's totally different. Unless you're strapping your head to like some pulley system, you can't really replicate the G-force, but you got just about everything else.
Exactly. And I remember this Calabogie track is such a huge track. It's 2 minutes 30 seconds a lap.
Pretty long lap.
And I was gonna race it for the first time, and we had the laser scanned version of the sim, and I did some 200 300 laps to learn that. When I went to the real track, I already knew the track. I already knew the crusts. I already knew the curbs, the camber, the off camber, everything. I knew everything. And then I noticed, oh my god, if I had to drive this in real life, first it would be scary. So when you're afraid, when you have a little bit of fear, you don't learn as much. So you would spend hours in the real car, spending lots of money in consumables and tires and fuel and renting the car and whatever. Like, you spend so much money doing something that you could have done in the simulator in the first place. You know,
Sure.
like,
oh yeah,
it's so valuable. It's so valuable. And people, and when I was competing there were lots of drivers who had such weird lines, and I was 100% sure that these drivers did not have the same practice before.
Yeah. You can just see it, like, that's not the right line. What are you doing there? Why would you take that line, right?
Yeah, because they chose one line, they didn't die. Okay, let's keep doing this line. In the sim, no. In the sim, you look at the delta, you crash, you spin, you can do what they say, like, dumb shit. You can do a lot of dumb shit in the sim to learn what you should not do on track in the real life, and then it just saves you hours and hours and hours of real life track time.
Probably hundreds of thousands of dollars too, in damages
Exactly.
and costs. And I think it was the Gran Turismo World Sport Challenge years ago that they had the graduates or the winners from that, the sim racing, got to drive in a real car. And after a couple of years of them doing that, they realized the sim drivers who had no experience behind the wheel of a real car were not allowed to be called amateurs anymore. They had to be pro drivers because they were fast as the pro drivers, and they were not amateurs. So that's a huge plus for sim driving right there, to say that even a first-time driver behind a car, but he's a pro sim racer, is not an amateur driver. You know, that's a huge vote of confidence.
Yeah, that's I don't know if I feel comfortable being called a pro driver though, like in real life, because I mean, you still have to get a lot of new information. You have to deal with the fear. You have to deal with the real thing moving around and how that's going to affect your technique. You have to deal with rain and a lot more variables in the grip. You have to deal with like mechanical stuff and how to take care of the car. Everything is real. It's not like, oh, how many things do you simulate here? Everything. Everything can go wrong. Like so my first year, my first 3 race weekends, I was slow. I knew what to do, but my body was not ready to be on the very limit. So I got my podiums and my win at the end of the season. So I started in May to race in real life, and it was a disaster. And then by the end of the year, I was okay. Now I'm getting to the point where actually people are looking at me and say, okay, this driver is fast, because I was finally able to, after 14, 15 races, to do the adaptation. I think you still need a full year when you come from sim racing to really do well, to really like get your full potential there. Same thing happened with Jamie Broadbent. I actually sent him a message. How much time did you need to really become competitive in real life? And he said, dude, a full year. And I was like, oh my God, this is so comforting, because on the first 3 race weekends, I was so frustrated. I was not getting the performance that I expected. And I don't think it's going to happen that quickly. Like you still need around 6 months of 1 year to do the transition. I mean, you still have a jump start if you compare it to other like drivers who never had experience with the sim, but you still need a little bit of time because there's so much new stuff.
Oh yeah, and you're just trying to bring the car home. You don't want to crash this super expensive car that maybe you don't own, maybe you're borrowing or renting or getting to lease somehow. So it's a lot more risk that you're just trying to, let's do the best we can. Let's not, put it into the wall. Let's get some points here if we can, and move on to the next one.
Exactly. No, yeah, and if you do like a little mistake on the beginning of your career, that's gonna hurt that's gonna hurt the rest of your career, because
Yeah.
that the first impression matters a lot, right? So I was really cautious and really taking my time to really send it. And nowadays I'm starting to be a little bit more elbows out, but it took some time to gain that confidence.
And the very first track day I did at Granton Raceway in Michigan, on the west side of Michigan here. And they had us roll down the windows for egress. And I had never thought of that before, because if you crash or something, the door's all punched in. You have to be able to exit the car somehow, and you're not going to be able to roll down that window. So do they do the same or similar thing in your series?
It varies a lot. Some cars, I think most cars actually don't. Well, some cars have the plexiglass windows with like an inlet for air and stuff. My car did not have a window. I think it really depends. We had like roll cages and that little thing that you put there, but I think it really depends a lot from track day to track day, from competition to competition. Something that I really wanted actually was the little LED that shows when you have like green flag, yellow flag
Oh
inside
yeah,
the car.
I've seen
Because
those.
huh?
I've seen those. Those look really cool.
Oh my God, amazing. Because like I already made overtakes while on yellow, because the car that I was overtaking was blocking the view from the yellow like flag from the Marshal post.
Yeah.
So if I had that little like thing shining in the car, I would immediately see that. This is like Formula One cars have that, IMSA cars have that. So that is something that I would say is a huge improvement in safety.
And I've even heard about people talking, what if we had a light system in your helmet? I mean, you don't want to blind yourself, but maybe there's like yellow, red, green lights in your helmet that wouldn't have to be mounted on your dash or something like that. Because on a motorcycle, we're not looking at our dash. We're up here, and so it's a little bit harder for bikes to see that the heads up display. But technology is improving. We'll see where it goes. I think it's a great thing. And that transitions me to talk about, I've been a track marshal for, I think, 13 different organizations over the last maybe 2 years. So I've done over 20 events, from motorcycles to cars and Formula One, IMSA. I have not done IMSA. I'm an IndyCar. But yeah, just trying to expand my knowledge. And I'm surprised about how much I've learned, how just things work on the side of the track, and you see everybody taking different lines. You see the leaders come through, they're on a different line. They're on the gas at different points. You see the back markers come through, they're on a totally different line. They're not even racing the same track, it looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty cool to see the other side of it from a new perspective. I've learned things about, what proper line you should be on, and it also depends on what class you're in. So if you're on a 1000cc motorcycle versus a 600 versus a 300, your lines are going to be very different.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I drove so far in real life an FRS and a Porsche GT4. So the FRS is a lot about momentum because you don't have a lot of power. So you have to focus on getting the best exits possible, even sometimes sacrificing a little bit of the entry. Because as soon as you go a little bit too hot, get into ABS or get some kind of oversteer and lose mid-corner speed, you can't recover that speed and you keep losing time for a long time. In comparison, a high-powered car, you can actually go into the corner a little bit hotter, because if you do a little bit of a mistake, you get enough power, so the amount of time you lose on the exit is not that much. So this is one of the things, for example, in real life, that like the car that I was driving was not like a race car. It was a road car that was converted into a race car. So the ABS was stock and made for urban driving. So imagine how like unpredictable it was sometimes, because it's made for safety. So the brake bias is totally forward. So if you brake a little bit too much, you get so much ABS on the fronts while having absolutely no ABS in the rear. So the car just understeers like crazy.
Oh no.
And like all those little new variables, they show up. It's the line has to be affected because of that. Okay, I know I cannot trail brake that much, so I'm gonna have to choose a different way to not get into ABS and to get a better exit and so on. So lots of learning.
Oh yeah, it's just such an interesting sport for me. I love it. I'm mostly into motorcycles, but trying to make a break into cars as well, and karts and all that too. So I just love anything with the engine.
Yeah, absolutely. My goal now is to figure out the sponsorship to be able to race next year, because this year I made the course and the course did very well, so I was able to pay for my first season. But I won't be able to do it again because it's way too much money. I pretty much spent all my life saving for this. So right now I'm already like in some meetings here and there for sponsorship. It's looking good. But let's see. Next year we'll see what we're gonna do. I may even maybe race in the US. But who knows? Could be Europe. I'm just like working hard every day to keep like, growing on my Instagram, which is pretty much the platform that made it possible for me to get in contact with such big brands like Ferrari, Logitech, and I've been working with them. So yeah, just gonna keep doing what I'm doing and see if we can keep racing next year.
I was just talking to this about this to my friend the other day. Do you have a race resume? Like a document that you can supply a potential sponsor with and say, here's what I've done, here's what I can do for you, here's the series, the demographics of the viewership and how many people are watching, how many countries it's distributed to, that kind of thing?
Well, not really. Actually, like every kind of partnership or sponsorship that I've been going into is by talking about it. Like, I mean, everything that I do is online, right? My Instagram is all there. My YouTube has all the vlogs and the wins and the podiums, and I have a Twitch stream.
So what are your usernames for those channels?
Suellio Almeida for the Twitch, and only Suellio for my Instagram, and Suellio Almeida for YouTube. So pretty much like they never required or requested anything like that yet. Maybe I will have to figure this out when we actually get into agreements and stuff and contracts. I think I will need to have some written down numbers for them, because it's probably going to be like a lot more people. I don't know. It's just this new thing for me, so I still got to learn a lot. I'm very glad that my racing team helps me a lot. Mark Andres again, the owner of Apex VR, he really helps me understanding this business politics side of motorsports and how to really like portray yourself, behave, and do the right things, get the right information, write down what your goals and what you want to offer for the sponsors and for the companies, and what series to participate, all that. Like, I know nothing about it. I'm a sim racer.
Yeah.
And then like I pretty much ask anything that any question that I have, I just like send him a message, and okay, here's how it is. So there you go.
Perfect. Sounds like you got a good guy in your corner helping you out.
Oh yeah, a lot of people actually, man. It's crazy. I'm such a lucky person. Like a lot of, literally, I have a motorsports manager right now that found me on Instagram.
That's awesome.
Like racing team owner, good teammates, amazing crew. I learned so much with them, and now great people like just showing up on my DM on my Instagram saying, "Hey, like I like what you're doing. I want to help you. Let's try this and this and that." And it's amazing, intelligent, experienced people that already helped me so much in real life. You know, like this manager, Alex, he gave me setup tips in real life through Instagram. Guy never saw me in real life before. He saw my Instagram. We started chatting, and now, like a month later, he's like giving me very important tips about tire pressures and toe in, toe out for the FRS and what to do and the kinds of driving and this and this and that. And it works. I was there. I went there. I talked to my team. Hey, this guy from Instagram said to try this and this and that. And boom, we're like half a second quicker.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, just such amazing people that I get to connect with on Instagram. It's amazing.
And what series is that you were racing in Canada? I don't know if you said that already.
No, it's a Super Production Challenge. That's the series that I raced in this year. I just finished, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to race again there next year. That there are many possibilities for next year. Actually, I'm still just like doing the research and figuring out the price and the sponsor and the funding and like you know, just lots of possibilities right now. But it could be SPC again. It could be Super Production Challenge again, in a different class or maybe in the same class. It could be WRL in the US. It could be 24 hours in Nordschleife in Europe. Like,
That'd be awesome.
it can be anything. Like, we're researching everything and seeing what would be the best move for my career right now, especially after having such an amateur year and not having a lot of experience yet. So I still need to learn a lot. I would say until I become properly competitive, I think I need still one more full year, maybe 2 more full years until I can say, okay, now I'm a real pro driver.
Where you're trying to really fight for the championship.
Yeah, exactly. Right now I'm just absorbing, and I mean, you're on track. You have 3 months experience, and you're competing with a guy who has 16 years experience.
Yeah, it's a little difficult.
A little difficult, and you can only be humble. If you're not humble, you stop learning immediately, and then life's gonna slap you in the face.
Yeah, well, I know all about that. When I was first starting, I started racing at like 20 years old. That's why my number's number 20. And I was racing against a guy who's been an expert for 15 years. I'm like, I'm I'm not gonna be expected to beat this guy. If I can finish second behind him in 6 races, I'm gonna be ecstatic, you know. And of course, you want to be ahead, but you also don't want to throw it down the road and, you know, take too much risk either. So it's a compromise. And
yeah, and like again, like I said earlier, if you force too much, if you generate stress, tension, then you stop going quicker. So it's about staying relaxed and doing the mistakes, doing the wrong lines, and then looking at them analytically. Okay, so he was doing that, I was doing this, and then watching the GoPro footage after. Okay, he was doing this and this and that. Like, it's just staying in this low effort. It's not about effort. It's about consistency and just like being the right mind like state. So I was like that. I was trying to chase my teammate in practices, and I was getting more and more tension and going slower. And then at the end, I figured out that I was actually catching him on the last weekend in the practice when I was not giving like zero fucks. I was like, whatever, let's just like feel this and this and that. And I was like, you can even see like some drivers, they are like, their eyes are like half closed. They're like incredibly relaxed and they're on it. They're like on the limit. And that's one of the things that as a beginner, you have to try to cultivate that state and be open to get as much information as possible. Information. So like information. Okay, I'm doing this wrong. Okay, I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing this wrong. And do this for 4 days on the race weekend. And then the next race weekend, okay, I'm doing this wrong. I remember this from last week. It's better. Okay. And like you need to be doing that patiently. Not a lot of physical, mental efforts, just the right like wavelength so you can get as much information in as possible.
And I'm sure when you're out there, you're not thinking about your taxes or your girlfriend or your family. You got to be focused on what's right ahead of you, maybe behind you, to each side. Like you're just in the zone, completely focused, right?
Exactly. No, you can't, man. It's such an experience. Like honestly, after being in a race car in a race, standing start, 40 cars on track, lots of like I don't know, stuff flying all over your windshield and fighting for position and having contact and this and that, and so many people involved watching you and it's such an experience that you forget about life. At that point there, you don't think about anything. You're just there. And then when it's over, you're exhausted. And it's actually the best sleeps that I ever had were after a race, because you just get you zero your battery, like you drain everything and then you're dead. And it's such an experience that makes you feel like alive. It's amazing.
Sure. And one thing I wanted to say or ask about is how do you differentiate between someone who says that seat time is really important? You could do 1,000 laps the wrong way and just be instilling bad habits. So how do you progress? It's not just seat time, right? It's like focused practice.
Not even focused practice. Yes, focused practice, but I think the best thing is, I think two things: being humble and open-minded for extra information, and getting extra information, external information, like read or watch what the faster guys are doing. Ask them, join a team with guys that are faster than you and ask them to coach you, ask them to drive with you. It's always doing something a little bit here on your own and then figuring out that you are on that plateau and then looking outwards and say, okay, now someone help me with this, like let me go faster. You need a coach. Whenever I'm practicing alone, I get to a point where, okay, I'm pretty fast, 3/10 slower than the world record, but those 3/10 I can only find if I get another driver who is on my level. Then we kind of like start doing the intersection. Okay, I'm actually quicker than him here, but he's quicker than me there. So you need external information. Always. That's the key. If you're driving alone, only alone and alone and alone, it's not gonna happen. You're actually gonna, I say like you have A and B, two pillars, right? And you start building up blocks on top of them. A is the right technique, B is the bad habit. If you go to B and you drive 1,000 laps building these blocks on top of the bad habit, it's terrible to demolish all that and then go back to A, because it's not going to be like, you're not going to go from here to here. You have to go down, 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 shift to A, and then build all over again. So it's literally like if you're doing 1,000 laps in the wrong way, you have to do one more 1,000 laps in the right way to rebuild that. It's really, and sometimes depending on for how long you've been doing that, it really never goes away. You have that little bad habit like solidified in your muscular memory. It's such a danger to just drive and drive and drive and drive and drive without expecting information. I've been told several times by drivers, no, I don't need coaching. People asking me setups like, hey, can you do me a setup because I'm 2 seconds slower and I'm pretty sure you have a better setup. So can you sell me your setup? I was like, my setup is probably like 2/10 quicker, not 2 seconds. So do you want some coaching? And the guy was like, no, I don't need coaching. I want your setup. I tried.
I mean, even the fastest motorcycle racers and car drivers in Formula One have coaches. It's not something to be ashamed of. I'm a little biased now because I'm a coach too, but I think it's so important. And one thing that helped me progress a lot was, instead of waiting around in the amateur ranks, I got to the expert ranks as soon as possible so that I could watch them and right in front of me and model what they're doing and say, oh, wow, he just went right by me in this one turn. I need to step it up here a lot. And from seeing that, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't know I could go through that corner any faster. He just showed me it's possible. He just blew my doors off. So just that alone was, I think, incredible coaching. If you can just get behind someone fast, even if you're not talking to them, if it helps, if they break it down for you, tell them what they're doing with their gearing, how they're downshifting into that corner, or whatever the situation is. I think it's just important to also just model those faster people in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you always want to win, but to win, you have to change something. And then you have to figure out what is it and then go there and change it. So you can't run away from it. If you do run away from it, you're not going to improve.
For sure. And I wanted to say your videos on Instagram, man, are awesome. They are, I don't know what program you're using, but it looks really great. You got like video overlays with like all kinds of, I can't even describe it. Maybe you can do a better job.
Visual elements and everything. So yeah, there's a whole context to that. When I was starting to do YouTube videos, I researched a lot, like why are some videos better and why are some videos like just never seen. And I figured out that what really makes a good video is a video that is easy to digest. So you can have audio, you can have text, and you can have video. So you need to make all three work together so the information goes very easily into your brain. If it's only me talking and you're not listening to it, you're in the metro, like just like scrolling, then you will not like care about my video. If it's only text, kind of can work a little bit, but if it's text with a video or text with me speaking, and then you combine these ways to deliver the message, then it comes in way quicker. And then you can not, it doesn't require a lot of effort to receive the message. These are the videos that go viral. It's the video that is very easy to understand, easy to digest. So I took a little bit of that video editing tips to make these videos, and a little bit of my coaching experience, a little bit of my racing technique, and I combined all of that to make these videos. And I actually did not expect them to go viral. I think I first released the braking versus GT versus Formula braking.
Yeah.
Like how it differs, and I think it's over 2 million views right now. I was like, whoa.
I saw a lot of them.
So people really like that. Let's do it again. So
Yeah.
there are many little techniques. For example, if you put like two videos, one on top of the other, then people will watch that video a lot more because they have to rewatch it to look down, and they compare. So because you're watching it for longer, then the algorithm says, okay, this video is so good that they're spending more time in the app thanks to you. I'm gonna make your video go viral so people stay more time on the app. So
sense.
there's a lot of these little things. There's a rule that every 3 seconds something has to happen in the video. If 3 seconds go by and there's no extra change, like extra text or element or any change in the scene, then the video gets boring and someone just goes and changes. Of course, these are the techniques that I use for Instagram because people don't really want to know, people don't care about who I am. So I have to conquer them. But in my course, people pay for it. People want to learn. So now I have an environment where I can explain everything in more detail with patience. So the videos are longer, 6-10 minutes, lots of editing still, because I still want the message to be easily delivered. So there's a lot of visual elements and a lot of examples and a lot of lines here and there and how it affects on compound corners and crests and compressions. Like I try to illustrate everything in the best way possible, but the videos are longer because now I know these guys here, they want to go faster. So it's totally different approach.
And I'm sure you're kind of reinforcing or learning some of those things yourself by just teaching them and explaining them in detail. I'm sure that probably helps enforce them for you too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm actually, sometimes I try to describe something to my student and then I realize I'm doing it, but I never put any words to it. And as soon as I put words to it, I can adjust it. So I developed a concept called passive counter shear versus active counter shear.
Okay.
I just finished writing my chapter about it. So passive counter shear is when it happens naturally by the forces of the tire and the steering and everything involved. So if you like drop your hands off the wheel, it comes back. It's self-centered. So that's passive counter shear. Actually, that's just self-centering. Passive counter shear is when the car is over shearing and the wheel, and you leave the wheel and the wheel goes all the way and the car counter shears itself. So that's why it's passive, because you're not doing anything. Active counter shear is when the car is not doing that and you actively turn the wheel to the other side. So what I explain in that chapter is that the active counter shear is always going to be slower because human reaction is between 2 and 3/10 of a second. So you are always going to catch the car with a delay, and you're going to lose hundreds. Even if it's a very, very minor thing, you're going to lose some hundreds of a second on that corner specifically because the correction was a little bit delayed. So this is in the light hands technique like unit, where I say that you have to let, like, you can even watch me driving. Sometimes I do a huge correction. That's not me. I'm just having my hands are relaxed and the force feedback pulls the car to the other side. And that also happened in real life. So it works perfectly in the simulator, works perfectly in the real life. And I had to explain that to a student and figured out, oh, wow, okay, I can actually identify now when am I doing the active counter shear? When am I holding the wheel too hard and this and that? I actually published this lesson yesterday. So it's
So
a
you're
very
saying
fresh thing.
what you're saying is the passive counter steer is a more effective tool than the active.
Much more, because it happens immediately. It happens like with physics, you know? Like,
So it seems like don't fight the wheel so much. Just let it do a little bit what it wants to do, but don't let it just rip it out of your hands.
yeah. So what I say is that if the corner is to the right, you should always turn right. Never pull it back to the left, because the car already does that for you. So you turn it to the right. If it overshears a little bit, relax your hands. The car corrects. But at this point, I'm still pulling to the right. Even though the wheel is going to the left because the passive counter shear is super strong, I'm still pulling the car a little bit to the right. And then when I see that the car is correcting, I can add a little bit more force. I also differentiate steering angle from steering force, because steering angle is the state of the wheel. Steering force is how much you want to change it. So if you're adding steering force towards the outside, that's active counter shear, that's bad. So the steering force is always towards the inside of the corner, and you're always measuring like that, balancing that force into the corner versus the passive counter shear that is pulling it back. So that's like, I mean, I'm going in high detail on these things because people don't really talk about it. So I'm developing new concepts, making sure that it's clear enough for people to be able to make these adjustments in a more clear way when they're driving.
Yeah, I think it's a huge benefit and it's valuable, man. I appreciate you doing this, and I'm sure at least 1,500 people think it's valuable too.
Yeah, right now I have 700 and almost 800 drivers registered in the course.
Wow,
So
that's
it's
great.
it's amazing. It's amazing, and I want to keep working on it. I think there's one sad thing about like online courses and things, that people don't really know the value of the product. They only see the marketing side of it. So I have to study a lot. I'm reading books about marketing and trying to convince people that my product is good. Like it's difficult. It's difficult because there's a lot of other courses right there that are investing a lot more in marketing than the quality of their own courses, and they actually sell a lot more. So this is one of the parts. Well, that's life, right? You know, you have to convince people that it works. So I have to do it.
So it's probably about like testimonials and reviews, and that's why I'm trying to have you on to promote you and your business and you as a racer. And in the meantime, I get some free content out of it, and I get hopefully a little bit better at speaking. You never know. Maybe after 100 episodes, I'm better than the first one, but you just
Always a little bit better, man.
keep
Always.
going, you know?
Yeah. No, thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's pretty much my life right now. I'm actually driving a lot less. I'm driving in real life for sure, and I'm practicing, but I'm spending, let's say, 70% of my time on the book, on the course, and on Instagram to like bring more people in so they see a little bit of my content, and then if they really want to go like and improve that last second they can go and get the course.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, man. I had something I was just gonna say, but it's off the tip of my tongue. You got anything else?
Um,
Let's see. Yeah, I just love racing, man. Just trying to help promote the sport and the people who are in it, and just meet some new people and network and see where it goes. Oh, my question was going to be where would you like to be racing in like 5 to 10 years? Where is your ideal spot to be? Is it a certain series, or you mentioned Europe or maybe the States?
I would say prototypes.
Prototype
That would be the
stuff?
pinnacle for me, because you Formula One is out of the like, it's stupid to think about it, but like I think thinking my potential and
Realistically, yeah.
realistically speaking, I think the pinnacle, my dream would be to drive a LMP1 car in the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Now, would
That
you
would
try to do
be
the whole series or just that one particular
if I
event?
can do the whole series,
Yeah.
I'm in.
What is that? WEC, right? Or Endurance
yeah.
World Championship?
Exactly. Or IMSA too. I mean, just racing, man. Honestly, just racing. Anything. Like if
Yeah.
I can get into a GT4 car, GT3 car, that's such an achievement. So few people like achieve that, to be able to compete in these places. So
Like a dream
I
come
think,
true.
yeah, like what I really want is to all the money that I make comes back to the sport. All of it. So the more money I make, the better content, the better equipment for the I'm literally like bought a 360 camera right now that I'm gonna put on my car to get like the best view possible and like capture everything and
Yeah.
make better vlogs, and then better microphones. I literally bought an iPhone because of the little camera that it has, like the cinematic one.
Yeah.
And I've been creating so much better content because of it. So all of these things, it's always just stay in the loop. It's just stay like sharing the passion of motorsports. Being in a racetrack is what really makes me alive,
I love
completely
it.
alive. It's amazing.
You know, I have one flag outside my house right now, and it's not an American flag, it's a checkered flag. The checkered flag is the flag of my people.
Great, man.
And I wanted to say, you know, if I think the most difficult part about racing is not racing, it's about funding it. If you can
Yeah.
get it funded, you can race forever. If you can't get it funded, you might have a season or 2 or 5, and then you're out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when I finished my season last year, I was like, am I gonna be able to race again? This is all I want, but it's so difficult. Right
Like, now
now,
what?
it's looking good.
Yeah.
Right now, I think I'm pretty much sure that it's gonna happen. I'm even having the privilege to do some research and maybe go up a little bit and race in some higher level series. Still like on the making, but it may happen. So let's see.
Heck yeah. And you mentioned music earlier, right? You're a pianist?
Yeah, so I've done so far 17 years of piano. I have a bachelor's degree in Brazil and a master's degree here.
Okay.
And I still play. Actually, my piano is right there. You can really see it, but it's right behind my seat. And I actually spent the morning today like kind of resting a little bit from content, from writing, from this. So I just spent the morning playing some piano and trying, because it's you can burn out quite quickly working with so many different things. So yeah, it's still my hobby. I still love it. I honestly think that being on high level in the piano helps me stay sharp for high level driving, because it's not different.
Yeah. I think it's so important to get into music or singing or, you know, instrumentation or whatever instrument you want to play. Just pick something. And it makes you smarter. Like there's no doubt about it. It clicks in another gear in your brain.
Exactly.
Might not be able to be monetized in a way some other skills are. I mean, yeah, you could make an album and make money off of that, but I just think it adds so much to your repertoire. And like, I remember being in like middle school and playing the trumpet in concert band and all that stuff. And you see these people who aren't really used to playing an instrument. They make a mistake and they stop and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then, you know, they're all interrupted themselves. But as you get better, it's like you make a mistake, just keep going. Like maybe nobody noticed, maybe nobody heard it. And it's just like it's leads into racing and sports and all that, because you make a mistake all the time. It might be subtle, but you're not going to pull over and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake." Like just keep going, you know?
Hey
It's
guys,
just
let's stop the race. Overshoot.
it's about that resiliency and like making a mistake and being okay with it, and maybe not trying to do that every time, but just learning from it. I think it's
Exactly.
valuable.
No, it keeps you out of your comfort zone. You don't want to be lazy. Like sometimes you want to relax, yes, but mostly you want to spend your daily energy properly. Like you don't want to spend a whole day doing nothing. You want to always like when I'm playing piano, I'm not chilling. I'm actually studying on high level, like lots of notes and stuff, and I'm really like the vision thing for racing is very similar in the piano. If you look to the wrong place for half a second, you miss a leap, you miss a jump, you miss like stuff, you miss notes. So your eyes are moving all over the place, and you're working on that sharpness, reaction time, and all these skills are used in racing. And I'm pretty sure that the fact that I do lots of piano and music helps me being sharper in racing.
It makes you
100%
more
sure.
creative with your lines. I mean, it's not a math test out there. You can be very creative with what you're doing, and it's very similar in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And what kind of music are you playing? A little bit of everything? Are you doing like classical
Um,
or like covers?
Mostly classical. I do improvise a lot. I have a little Spotify album with my improvisations, and it's like just like a hobby thing. I play a lot of like Chopin etudes and stuff. I'm buying a guitar right now.
Nice.
So I'm gonna do some solos and stuff. I like metal. I
Yeah.
like prog and fusion. Like I like anything that is musically technical, like difficult and virtuosic, because I like this technique thing. I'm obsessed by being incredibly active. So it's a little bit of everything actually.
Very cool. I like it a lot. Well, that's I know you got a time crunch here. We got a couple minutes left. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Just encouraging people to not do 1,000 laps without looking for extra information.
Yeah.
You can get so much free stuff like everywhere. You can get access to many books everywhere. I mean, my Instagram has 85, maybe 90 videos about like racing technique. And I've received so many messages already of people who said they improved like 3-4 seconds
That's a lot.
just by watching the videos and then going on track with the new information and having that. So just encouraging everyone to get out of the comfort zone, like do it, like try to get better, because even though it's a little bit out of it's a little bit like it requires a little bit more energy, but you never regret it after you learn something. You see the green delta, that's the best feeling.
Yeah. And I thought it was really cool, watching all your videos and all that. I learned some stuff. I thought it was entertaining. And I also saw there was another company, I forget the name of it, but it was sim data analysis companies who will take your all your data from a lap, and they'll put it against their fastest lap or the world record, and then compare and contrast your steering input, all your different inputs, your line, everything, and see where you're missing your time. And I thought that was so great. We see data analysis in the real world. That was the first time I've ever seen sim data analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm probably oversteering or steering too much or steering too quickly, or I am probably not at the optimal steering rate for a lot of these corners. I'm still learning behind the wheel. And I thought, man, what a valuable tool to have your steering analysis analyzed.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's so
amazing.
helpful.
I focus a lot more on the feeling of it, on the technique. So especially because I come from a musical background, so it's a lot about what you should feel rather than showing the lines. I do use the lines, but they are support elements. They are not like the main thing. I hate only doing telemetry with like drivers. Like I want to see them driving. I want to hear what they feel, where they think they're missing, and then we work on that feeling, because that creates autonomy. If I'm only comparing my telemetry, I'm telling them what I'm doing,
Not
I'm not telling
how.
them why or
Yeah,
how.
that makes
So
sense.
they copy, they improve on that track on that car, but then they go to another track, they didn't learn anything.
It's not repeatable.
So
It's just they were just mimicking.
Exactly. So I focus a lot on developing skills that are going to be transferable to every car combo and even different sports and life in general.
So it's more theory than this is what I told you to do. Now go do it.
Exactly. I never do that. Never, ever.
That makes sense. I
So
like it.
when a student asks me, should I do this on third or fourth? I don't answer. Say,
You should
why
ask him
would you
like
do it on
some
third?
follow-up questions, like how are you in your gearing? Why would you short shift? Like, don't you? Is there a straightaway after this?
Exactly. So I asked them questions back, and then they figure out and they answer the question.
Yeah. It's like you got to lead a dog to water or a horse to water or something like that.
Yep.
But all right. Well, I don't want to keep you. I know you gotta head out of here. So thanks so much for talking to me for about an hour and 15 minutes or so. And I'll be sure to get this edited and posted in the next couple of weeks. I still have a few in the queue I got to get to and post those. So I'll be sure to tag you. And if you could just share it on your platforms as well, get the most eyeballs on it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do
All
that.
right. Very good. And
All
you
right,
already
man.
gave your social media. So check them out on there. And we'll see you at the racetrack.
All right. See you, man. Thank you.
Have a good one.